I was a bit skeptical when I first heard that a team of guys from romhacking.net had completely revamped the Final Fantasy VII remake for the NES almost a decade after its release. See, for those of you who may not know, in 2005, an unofficial, unlicensed version of Final Fantasy VII was developed and published for a Chinese Famiclone system. The game featured many gameplay elements from the original Final Fantasy VII, including the 3-member party structure and adaptations of the game's subsystems. Deciding to forego the active time battle system, they instead implemented a basic turn-based battle system similar to that seen in Final Fantasy III. And many of the game's graphical assets were borrowed from other early titles in the series from the Famicom and SNES. They also decided to forego remaking the soundtrack of Final Fantasy VII in 8-bit and instead borrow even more from other games, in many cases shortening tracks to a few repeating notes. At the time this was released, it received praise for the most part. I mean, Final Fantasy VII remade with old-school pixel graphics? How cool is that? But all was not well, however. The game was extremely difficult with an inconsistent battle rate, enemies that were too strong, and protagonists too weak, culminating in fights that were long and boring. The game's limited healing options and slow growth rate for abilities and weapons compounded this issue, causing the game to be quite a slog. And this is where we get to our ROM hacking heroes. With what started out as just a graphics overhaul patch turned into a 4-year extensive revamp to completely overhaul the game to help it better resemble the PlayStation version of Final Fantasy VII in regards to battle mechanics, equipment, spell leveling, music, and overall aesthetic. These guys did not disappoint. I really don't know where to begin here. I honestly might be able to say that this turned out to be the best fan game I've ever played. It's literally just like playing Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation. Some may say even better. I'm not saying it, but some might. You pretty much get the same great and compelling story plot, only with slightly less complex game mechanics, and a whole lot less full-motion video, low-poly characters, and JPEG backgrounds. I know graphics come second to the story, and that's why Final Fantasy VII for PlayStation holds up regardless, but this demake for NES, the final product, completed by the guys at romhacking.net, man, this thing is amazing. The patch fixes many things, as I already mentioned, and the first that you'll notice is the graphics. The tile sets have been replaced with patterns that make a whole lot more sense. In the Chinese original, they thoughtlessly placed trees in Sector 7 of Midgar, even though there shouldn't even be a single blade of grass there, based on the story. You see the aesthetic completely changed by the tile swap. You get this dusty, dystopian feel for what it's really like down there under the plate of Midgar, where the sun never shines. It should look like a postmodern shantytown full of peasants and ruffians, not a pleasant castletown villa. The alteration in music helps with this change in how the game feels as well. The story really comes together for a full Final Fantasy VII experience when you have the actual music from the PlayStation version implemented here, especially when you're in battle. I like the old NES battle music for sure, but it just doesn't fit well here. When you get the compositions that were meant to be heard in certain situations, it really pulls it all together. I mean, a big part of what makes Final Fantasy so good is the franchise's composer, Nobuo Uematsu's ability to really make you feel what's happening at any given moment through the music. So, big props to these guys for not only implementing 29 tracks from the original, but also for placing them in the right spots during the game as well. And I can't forget to talk about the refined battle systems. I'm no mathematician, but whatever these guys did to fix the slow pace in order to closer resemble the PlayStation version really changes everything. Enemy strengths are more evened out with your characters, and the pace of the game never really feels like it gets bogged down by combat, a huge noticeable upgrade from the Chinese original. That's not to say that there won't be that point where you hit a difficulty wall and have to start grinding. I mean, you get that in any Final Fantasy game, but doing so here doesn't feel like so much of a burden with the faster pace of battle. I managed to find a really great grinding spot right here on the road between Sector 6 and Wall Market, by the way. Since it's so close to town, you can easily go from grinding to the inn and shops to rest up and upgrade your weapons and spells. Speaking of upgrades to spells, I love the overhauled materia system. Every new character comes with a materia, rather than buying it in shops. Materia levels up as you use it, gaining a new spell with each level. You can equip unequipped materia in combat, but each character can only have one materia equipped at a time, keeping things simple. I think the biggest accomplishment here is the fixes to the story. Because the Chinese original misses most of the storyline from Disc 2 and 3, so Lugia 2009, the guy who oversaw this game's overhaul, hacked the game events, adding scenes, new dialogues, and explanation. He managed to convert a game that was missing important plot points into a game that perfectly wraps all the original storyline together and adapts it to the game's playable contents, as well as giving it a very nice ending. Lugia 2009 more than earned his right to be implemented into this game, and as we see here, he includes himself in the game as a shopkeep within the Shinra HQ building because, as he points out, there was no item shop in the entire building, and he thought he'd set one up to help you out. What a guy. Not only does he give us the 8-bit adaptation of Final Fantasy VII that we deserve, he also gives us a conveniently placed shop as well. But overall, I think that if you like Final Fantasy VII, you'll like this game. But even still, although I think this game is more enjoyable if you're already nostalgic for the story, it can still be a great experience for newcomers as well. Shinra is an evil corporation, guys. Whether it's in 3D with polygons on top of JPEGs, or if it's rendered in this beautiful 8-bit masterpiece, it's up to you to stop them. So equip that materia, it's time to join the cause.